And really, honestly, I must say that everyone in this building does feel like family, like our crew who's in the back, Anastasia, Igor, who's over there, the man behind the cam, and the brainchild of this beautiful building. He's actually the owner. So if you love what is going on in here, you can speak to him about doing anything that you feel inspired to do. It's a full media house. I have to plug that every time because, you know, we want to keep the lights on and do more things with our Crib Uncut. Thank you all for following our Crib Uncut and supporting us. And yeah, we're going to keep on doing more events like this. So even let us know your ideas as well. And maybe we can do something together. Yes, yes, yes. All right. And Alliston's over there. I just want y'all to take a look because he will be your guy if you would like to ask a question. He'll come around with the mic, and he's usually my co-host along with Igor. So we do this show called Our Crib Uncut. If anyone doesn't know, please follow us. And we got some funding through Frontlines Toronto. I want to shout them out as well. Thank you so much to them. And we were able to do all of these different events that are all kind of coming together as a media production content creator summit. So if you're interested in any of those things, we'll be doing a lot more events, workshops, and programs. Yes, beautiful. All right.
Busy.
Who is ready to get elevated? Yeah. Yes, okay, energy. Thank you, energy. I'm for that. So, Master T.
Elle?
Yes. Did y'all hear that? He said,
Can you hear me? Check 1, 2. Elle?
And Igor, let us know when we're like good to go. All right, we are good to go. All right, so I thought that I would do, the typical thing, because there might be some people right here, right now, who may or may not know who I have the opportunity to sit down with and have a conversation. But first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Elle de Lyon, aka LV Lion, when I hit the stage. And I'm really, really happy to see all of you out in the audience today, and especially feeling grateful and honored to be sitting down with Master T. So for anyone that doesn't know, originally from Leeds, England, Tony Young, aka Master T, was a decorated VJ at Much Music, hosting, producing, and interviewing some of the most popular artists in the world. Madonna, Janet Jackson, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Backstreet Boys, Jay-Z, Tupac. There's so many, we don't even have time, but I have to shout out Spice Girls because that was like, what? Come on. Like, how
One
was
of my favorites.
that must have, oh man, like so many artists that we have grown up with and who are still gracing the world stages. You had the opportunity to sit down with them like I'm having the opportunity to sit down with you. And really is a mogul, icon, legend in Canadian music history, and especially Canadian hip hop history. You were also a producer and VJ for various Much Music programs and brought in really that what they call urban hip hop, brought in the dance hall, the reggae, really the Black culture into Much Music with Extendamix and Demix, which my favorite shows on Much Music. And also after Much Music, still stayed in the music scene, being the director of a media production company called RX Music, and which was a media consultancy agency that helped captivating guest experiences for retail stores, hotels, bars. So you're responsible for making sure people stay entertained in those spaces. And then a whole multitude of awards you have won, including the Bob Marley Award of Distinction, I believe it is. Yes, I might be saying that not all in the right word, but Bob Marley, come on, that's amazing. And so many awards that we're gonna spend some time talking about today. So beautiful people, welcome to an elevated conversation with Master T.
Wow. Thank you so much for that beautiful intro. I don't get tired of hearing it. Let's go again.
Right? I know. I had more things, but
kidding,
I'm just like, I don't know what else to say.
No, that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so of course, I think I want to get started right away with your early life. And just because I had an opportunity this past summer to really hear your story and to understand the mindset that went into being able to achieve some of these great things that we talked about. And so I'd love to talk about your early life, being born in England and then coming here to Canada. And really, what was that like at that time? And how did you navigate that space as a child, emigrating and coming here and starting this new existence with a British accent to boot?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in the UK, Leeds specifically, and my parents obviously moved from Jamaica and came to get a better life in the UK, and being there, it was it was cool. I mean, I enjoyed living in England, and then. Unfortunately, my parents ended up getting divorced. But going through school, I was a real avid footballer, soccer player, and the life there was, like you knew and felt what your existence was as a young black kid. There was a lot of things to deal with as far as blatant racism, that you dealt with there. You'd be, there's one in particular area. Or a particular area that I lived in Leeds, where it was like all the South Asians were coming, were moving to Leeds, and the skinheads and the white, the white groups, didn't mess around. They would, petrol bomb their homes. There would be fights and there'd be, stabbings. There's all kinds of things going on, and the same thing was happening, for the black community, but. At the same time, it was also, they were almost fearful of the black community because, the South Asians at that time didn't fight back. Later they did. But the black community, I remember, just being a kid and it'd be like, oh, we're going down to this school. I'm like, for what? Yeah, we're going down there. There's going to be a scrap. And sure enough, like 30, 40 black guys going to this school. And there was like 30, 40 white guys. And there was like, they'd have... bricks, and they'd have, all these different things, and it was just like a straight on battle. It was kind of crazy. So you went through that. You understood what who you were to a certain extent, and the high level of racism. And but I think what really kept me going, obviously at that time, was football, was soccer. I was before I left, I was invited to try out for Leeds United, which is the premier club team. But I was invited to play to go try for the junior team. So that was a big deal in England. So but then I get this this message from my mom saying, oh, we're gonna move to Canada. I'm like, where? And we're going to Canada. Uncle Rupee and Auntie Sis is gonna sponsor us. Thank you, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and he invited a lot of brothers and sisters here, and and then you had to kind of wrap my head around, coming to Canada after really being immersed in the life, in England. But at the same time, prior to that, my parents divorced. So I was also dealing with that level of divorce, and my older brother, Basil. We had to deal with that. We had to just deal with the fact that my dad's at that point moved to the U.S. To go live with his mom in the Bronx. So then we journeyed to Canada in 74. I think I was about 12 or 13, about 13, and coming here, I hated it. I didn't want to be here. I mean, I'm a footballer. Like, what am I doing here? And getting used to the Canadian culture and lifestyle, especially coming into, I think I was grade 6 or 7, and just not wanting to be here. It's just you have to find another identity. You have to fit in. You have to understand how things moved here in Canada. And so there's a lot of times I rebelled. I didn't want to stand up for the national anthem. I was I went to school like the first few weeks and wanted to fit in so badly. And I said, Mom, I need a pair of Levi's. And Mom, I need a lumberjack shirt. Mom, I need some Kodiak boots. And so, my uncle, don't worry about the boots. I have a pair of Collins boots that you can wear that I get from work. I said, well, what are Collins boots? He brings these short boots with a steel toe. And then I said, Mom, I want, the Wranglers. No, so Levi's. And my mom brings Wranglers. I'm like, oh, gosh, it's not working out well. And so everything I was trying to do was fit in. Like, I just wanted to be that guy that would, lock in and be here in Canada. And the accent, me having a UK accent was somewhat challenging as well, because anything that was in a book or anything that was read, Tony, you'll read it. I'm like, oh, God. So maybe there, oh yes, here it is. This one ran up the hill, and here you go. And then after a couple of weeks, oh, all right, eh? Like, I switched. I just wanted to get that accent locked down for myself. So going through that whole period of time was definitely challenging in the beginning, for sure.
Okay, and especially like you mentioned that it's like the early 70s, you're about 12, 13 years old, which I think this is a very like pinnacle time in a young person's life. So how did you make this transition? Since you could not play football, or did you end up playing football here and finding some sort of community or tribe? How did you finally fit in? Was it the clothes? Did you finally get those Levi's? You got the boots?
Yeah, I never got Levi's.
No, you never got them.
Never got the Levi's, By then it was probably led to the disco where I had my flare pants and, tight,
Bringing in the new trends. You're setting the trends.
I'm setting the trends. Fitting in, I started to, there was a teacher there. His name was Mr. Armstrong, and he was my core teacher. And so he was really into theater. And at that time, I was very expressive. And I think what he realized and understood was that I was just a kid that needed to be kind of like connected with and just kind of embraced and kind of carried through this process a little bit more. So I think he realized I had a knack for and a flair for for theater and things like that. And also back in the day, I realized for my mom, when my parents divorced, I used to do things that were just to make her happy, just to make her smile. So I'd be going to school and I'd do this Groucho Marx thing, and it made her laugh, and I knew she was single mother in the UK raising 2 kids. And so she said, all right, Mom, bye. And I was like, see you later, Mommy. Here. And, I'll see you when I get back. And my mom would be like, hey, what's that? Maybe like a son, ain't funny. So she would, that would just make her feel warm. And then I realized, I probably realized from then what humor, really meant, what it really meant, and how it made her feel a certain way. And I think I've probably carried that throughout my life, because I think that also hides my level of shyness or being quiet to a certain extent. But eventually I would start doing some things that were at the school. There were some school plays that I got involved in, and then people start to realize, like, when you hit a stage, I think it's a real magical time when you hit a stage if you're in grade 7 or grade 8, and all of a sudden it's like, you're pretty well only there's about 3 or 4 black people already, and it's like, that's the guy that was on stage, man. He was really cool. And then you start, realizing that, hey, there's a little bit of a connection here, and I kind of ran with that.
I love that. I love how early on you found that art can connect you to other people. Yeah. And, showing your art, sharing your art, expressing yourself actually was the thing that made you fit in with everyone. Yeah. So I think that's a gem, There's going to be a lot of gems dropped here today. Hope people have out their pens, or their minds are open, because I really, really resonated with your story when I had the opportunity to hear, especially about the fact that you overcame a lot of things. Not only did you come from this country that is like in a different time zone, different accent, but also you had some personal challenges that you had to overcome, some physical challenges. And I'd love if you would share how you were able to overcome those physical challenges, especially having, you mentioned having a speech impediment and having to overcome that while being the new kid, all of these different things. What was like some of the things that your mom or your dad, or who was it that was in your head that made you still feel like you're going to be out there, you're going to be the guy on stage? Later, I think it was after being around my dad, I could see what levels of his personality that I take in. My dad's a people person, very much a people person. My mom's a little bit more reserved, but my mom was also a nurse back in the UK, and so I was born with a hair, lip, and cleft palate. Mm-hmm. So my lip was literally, if you know what hair, lip, cleft palate is, it's kind of split from here, and then your palate's kind of open, and so already, going to school, you're a target. You're black and you have a hair lip, and
So my mom was just really, very guided and protective of me, which was great. And being a nurse as well, 'cause everything she was told not to do, she did. She was told not to breastfeed me because the milk would kind of come through my nose and everything. So she she said forget that, and she didn't listen to anybody. So she would she would breastfeed me. She would take care of me, and never really made me feel any different.
Yeah.
It's when you obviously get to school and you get guys like doing all the things like this and kind of bugging you like that. And then I was angry. I'd fight. I'd be like, "What you think this is okay? To I guess it's called bullying these days."
Yes.
But and I went through that. But I also had a very incredible plastic surgeon back then. His name was Dr. Eastwood, and I would go there, and my mom used to work in the theater, the operating room as an assistant there as well. So he would say, "Look, we're gonna make this kid. We're gonna fix his hair, lip, and cleft palate." And so at a young age, I must have had about 6 or 7 operations, back to back. And then I had to go through, speech classes. And I remember going as a kid, and they were saying, "Okay, say sixpence." And I said, "Sixpence." And he was like, "Say sixpence." And I'm like, "Sixpence." And eventually, I kept doing it. And I was like, "Yeah, I get pissed off." And then, but eventually, my speech started to get better, and I would start feeling better about myself, and then I live with the fact that this is me. I'm a young black kid, and I have a hair lip, and I'll deal with what I have to deal with, and I was very fortunate that I had like I said, a very excellent doctor. It's interesting. I was just at my good friend's house the other day, and they had my book, and they were reading the book, and they were saying, "Wow, we found some interesting things we didn't know about you." And they've known me for years. And they said, "Well, what did you find out?" "We didn't know you had a hair lip." And I said, "Oh, wow." I said, "That's cool. I mean, I guess I wear it well." But yeah, so, I'm dealing with that. And obviously, that also made me kind of reserved in terms of wanting to be in front of a camera. I always wanted to be in the back, behind the scenes as a cameraman or as a producer. I didn't really want to be up front and center.
So let's talk about that. We're gonna skip ahead a few years, because I know you went to college. You went to college here at Mohawk
College,
and you studied somewhat in the industry,
TV broadcasting. Yeah.
So you thought maybe yes, I'm gonna be in TV, but you thought no, I'm definitely being behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
So what was the pivotal moment that shifted, that brought you to the limelight?
I think also I wanted to be. I also wanted to act. I had this kind of crazy little quirky personality. So there's a point when I wanted to just be an actor, and so I think at that point it was that was my focus. I finished college, and then I came to Toronto, and I got a job at the multilingual station, and a lot of the support came from my wife. She was my wife. Probably been married for 36 years. Yeah, 36. Looking at my son. I don't want to get. That's the one thing I don't want to get wrong. There'll be a re-edit.
Yes, we can do that, right?
Just mark the tape. We've been married obviously a long time, and she was always the one I was doing all these extra things, and I was doing some larger roles and different things through acting, and I ended up getting on a show back in the day called Black World, which was on Omni, now called Omni, but it was called MTV. The show was called Black World, and it was run by a gentleman called Daniel Corderon, and it was a half hour. That was our black show, and a lot of the community ended up watching it. And I kept bugging him when I ended up getting a job at the station, and I said, "Look, I want to help out. I want to assist." And he was like, and I bugged him for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then, finally, I got a hold of him, and I said, I got him on the phone, and I said, "Look, what's happening? I've been trying to get a hold of you. He goes, "Well, why are you bugging me?" And I said, "Look, this is really rude. This is an elder," and I'm like, "Here I am trying to help you, and you're putting me off, and I've got my talents here and available. I just want to help you produce your show." And he said, okay, look, you go out there and I'm going to give you the opportunity to go out and interview up and coming emerging young talent in the city. No, I said, I don't want to be on camera. I just want to help you behind this is your job. And so then I ended up doing this gig where I was interviewing emerging talent at the time, anywhere from models to this guy called Kevin Pugh, who was in the National Ballet and Canadian track stars as well. So that kind of got me immersed into the front of camera.
I love that. I love how you just put yourself into that position by really, what the euphemism that they say, closed mouths don't get fed. Right. And in order to feed your soul, like your creativity, you spoke up and ended up being in front of the camera. So now you're in front of the camera, and how do you end up on Much Music now, being one of the faces and were you the first VJ? Like they didn't even have that as a thing, and you made that happen?
All the VJs were there. Like the initial 5 that started in '84, they were all considered, Much Music VJs. At that time, when I ended up leaving Channel 47, I was a videotape operator. So I was behind the scenes, loading up TV shows and that type of thing. And when Much Music started in '84, my brother was already there. My brother was a cameraman at City TV, and he was saying, "There's this new station coming up. You should come out there and and get a job as a videotape operator." And I'm like, no, man, I don't want to be. I love you. I don't want to be around you. And it's not because I don't like you, but And then then they offered me. Then I found out what the salary was. So the one job at Channel 47, I was making $12,500, and Much Music, it was $17,500.
That's a big jump.
That's big money.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, and I said, honey, look at this. Come roll with me, and so that was a big jump, and especially back then it was like I had my own apartment, and I could pay for my insurance, I could car insurance, I could do a lot of different things, and so starting there, I was ended up being hired as a videotape operator. So all the videos that you saw on Much Music, I would load them into this VCR machine, and you cue them up and you play them back. But then there was also, throughout that, there was this guy named Christopher Ward, who was one of the VJs. He would do these kind of fun bits, fun kind of like quirky comedy things. So I got involved in that. And also another guy that I worked with, Gordon McWaters, I ended up working and doing, we had a kind of a field day, which was a lot of people took off as a day off, but we would create these little vignettes or little promos. And so I kind of ended up doing these different promos, and so I was starting to get more visibility. And then I got, I think, more so recognized through the eyes of Moses Neimer, who was the president of the station at that time. He was kind of like, I guess, keeping an eye out for people that were doing things, and so he kind of recognized that.
And so now you make it on as being a VJ as well?
Well, it wasn't that easy. Because,
Tell us about the challenges.
The challenge came because I ended up being a videotape operator, then I became a cameraman. And then, there's a point there where I'd applied for different jobs. If people remember Electric Circus, there was Electric Circus, and there was a job for floor director, and I went for the job, and I didn't get the job. And I was literally devastated. And I was like, and my wife said, "Look, chill out. That job's not for you." And I was like, okay, but you don't understand. But she did, and she said, you're not going to get on the air for another 5 years. I said, 5 years? Like who has time for that?
So at this time, you were wanting to be on camera, but not being able to be on camera.
Exactly. Yeah, it was that kind of thing in my head. I think, because that floor director job was kind of like. At the time and space, I probably didn't realize, that I really wanted to be on camera.
Yeah, it's hard to admit.
It's hard to admit, but it was more so that I realized, part of my personality that, yes, Yes, I could be behind the scenes, but at the same time, I wanted to come forward. I wanted to just be
tell your story,
tell my story. But the big thing is call it control. I wanted to control what I was doing,
exactly, or control the narrative. What's happening
exactly
on?
What was happening.
I hear you.
Yeah, so it was like 5 years to the day that I submitted a pilot for Extendamix. And so I was already working with the crews, so we shot this pilot, and it was me and this keyboard sampler called Roxy.
Yes, Roxy,
which
the
is
first AI.
That's
what
now
people said that in the comments.
Yeah. And now, that was my wife's voice. And so I came to her one time, and one night I said, look, you know what, I've got this idea for the show, and, I want you to be the co-host through this keyboard. And she's like, what? And then I said, okay, whatever. So I ended up getting Roland sponsored and gave me this Roland W30. So we had to, program in her voice. It would take us forever, because if we made a mistake, we had to go back and do them. So there's usually about 13 samples. So it would, end up
dedication.
Well, trust me, it was. And then, so the show would kind of roll where it'd be like, hey, what's going on? I'm Master T. How's everybody feeling? You're on Extendamix. What are you saying, Roxy? I'm good, T. I said, who's our special guest today, Roxy? Bobby Brown. And then it was like, but it felt comfortable. But the one thing I wanted was I didn't want anyone around me. I didn't want to have a co-host. I didn't want to have this, where I had to deal with anybody else. And I won't say that necessarily that was more selfish or egomaniacal. It was just the fact that, I had a vision of what I wanted. And even from back then, I put in the proposal that I wanted the show to be, if it made you move and if it made you dance, like I wanted to have that show that played that music. So right from the get-go, the show was called Extendamix. So I was playing reggae, I was playing R&B,
the tunes, them
hip hop, soca, like all.
That's when I started watching Much Music, by the way.
You locked in, and that's really I really wanted to have that level of control, and it worked, because when the show finally went to air after 6 months of waiting, the show launched, and it had a major sponsor within 2 weeks, which was Mars Bar. So and it was a big deal for them.
Yeah. And how did those kind of deals come about? Was that through Much Music, or you also still had to do your own, like, getting of sponsorships and all of those kind of things?
Oh, no, that was pure Much Music money. Trust me. They made a lot of money off that show. And then, interesting enough, because one thing I'd learned was being in a building, no matter where you are, and my son always laughs, because I always say, if you're on the first floor, make sure you go to the second, third floor, fifth, 20th floor. Make sure you know what's in the building. Make sure you know where. I remember I had guys coming up to me and goes, hey, where's the accounting department? You've been here 5 years, guy. You don't know where your money is? Okay, third floor. And just so I knew what was going on. Yeah. And the marketing and sponsorship area, there's somebody that I had befriended in there, and she told me, she goes, wow, your show just got sponsored by Mars. So what does that mean? She said that the show is sponsored by Mars, and it's a $250,000 deal. And I was like, what? And
so another jump, right?
Well, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was a jump for them, for sure. No, not money.
Yeah,
for me.
What about for you?
No.
So nothing changed.
No, nothing
for you.
changed. I mean, this is where, and there was a philosophy and mindset back then too. Mm-hmm. You're on the air. You've got to be happy about being on the air, and your ego is fulfilled because you're on the air.
Yeah, and people know you.
People know you.
You get free coffees.
No, trust me, I milked it. I got some free dinners. Trust me, it'd be like, baby, let's go over here. And back then, that's what people do. Say, Master T, come on in. I was like, oh, no. Yeah, all right, where's my seat?
It's like, my wife's over here. Okay.
Yeah, my wife said, come on, honey, come, baby. We don't have no kids there, but I brought any kids. Come. But then I start to realize the understanding, and again, the understanding of what television broadcasting was back then. Mm-hmm. So yes, the show was sponsored, and and then it was also, the show was continuously sponsored, and it was also highly rated. It was like the number one show on the station. Then I started to understand that the show was also sold and syndicated internationally. And then I was like, I would I was getting mail. Like, it wasn't like social media where you pick up your phone and, this is happening here. No, I was getting mail from South Africa. I was getting mail from France. I was getting mail from the UK. I remember going to the UK and a guy stopped me and he goes, "Oh, Master T, how you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm good, man. And how you doing?" And he's like, I said, "Oh, you from Toronto?" He's like, "No, I'm from here. Your show comes on every Saturday." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I remember years later, I met somebody who lived in South Africa. He goes, "Oh man, we didn't go party till to your show came on, man." And so, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We used to watch your show religiously every Saturday. Then we would go to the clubs."
Yeah.
And I said, "Where?" "In South Africa." So the show was sold all over the place. And no, I did not receive any money from that.
Okay, so in saying that, I'm interested to know, how long then after all of that happened did you stay with Much Music, and did that have anything to do with why you decided to move on? And then what did you move on to?
Well, I think one thing you have to realize, back in the day, you have to understand why you're there, what your purpose is, and it's like Dance Mix. The Dance Mix series. A lot of people have them. I was presented with gold, platinum plaques, and eventually I was presented with a diamond plaque, which it was Dance Mix '95, which sold 1 million copies in the country. Right. And 1 million copies, that's like Bryan Adams, that's like Celine Dion, that's like Anne Murray. Like I have a diamond plaque, and people thought, like, man, this guy must be loaded. And I didn't get any money off of it because I was also working at Much Music as a VJ. And if I did receive anything off the record, I'd be making more than a lot of the executives that were there. Right. So so then you sit there. Sometimes you have to understand why you're in a position, what you're doing. The music was still there for our people. I realized that now, years after, just how much it meant to the community. Just how much it wasn't just this TV show. Look, I got away with murder. I mean, anyhow, you could have a show and you have, Beanie Man coming in.
That's the episode I was thinking. And Shabba Ranks, I was thinking about any of those guys from Jamaica. They really came through.
They came in and it was like, Beanie, Bounty, Sanchez, all those guys, and then all the hip hop artists, and then, doing, live shows, and like we called it, anything that Much Music had, I realized that, our people weren't getting. So when it was Intimate Interactives, I realized our people were, there was the first artist to do an Intimate Interactive was Coolio. Yeah. And then I realized like we created the show, and I said to my wife, I said, I want to do the show. We call it To Mix and Around. She goes, well, what's the whole idea? I said, well, people will be sitting in kind of a circle in the round. And then she said, yeah, call it In Around, To Mix and Around. And then from there, we ended up getting like, it was good for the labels too, because the labels recognized that they had a source that they could go to. So there was Erykah Badu, Mary J. Blige came in, Jill Scott, Genuine, like all these these black artists, and then I got to open the phone lines and have our community come in from the Vibe line. Yeah, and that was amazing, just to have our own people come and sit there. And they're performing here, and people are right there, and it was a big deal.
Because truly, you were one of the stewards of creating safe spaces for creatives, especially in the Black community. Traditionally, in our community, our parents are not like pushing for us to become music stars or or even participate in that industry. But I do remember my parents being very proud of your program, and we had to watch it every Sunday. Like, not that I complained. It was finally one thing that they were like, you have to watch this, that I was like, okay, but I was like secretly happy. But it was because of the fact that it was you up there. It was this Black man who is like making the whole of Canada proud. So I'd love to know about, how did you feel that pressure from the community to be acting in a certain way, to be a role model, any of these things? And if you did, how did you take that on? Because to me, you stayed the course. Like, you really stayed consistent. There's a lot of people who fall off when, a lot of people are expecting things like that from them, but you're here today, like, you still continue to talk and inspire people. So how did you deal with that pressure, if you felt it at all?
Yeah, I don't think I felt pressure. I felt proud that I was connected to the community, and you're connected to the community especially when they see you. So I'd be up on Eglinton and it's like, yo, mama, you
Yes.
good? Everything all right? Yeah, mama, see a show with being in my nice works, father, nice works. And even my kids, growing up on Eglinton, and they or wherever, and there's a level of natural connection, to the community, because I think they felt, and I think they still feel, is the fact that, I'm not any different than anyone else.
Yeah, you're like
I've
a real
had,
guy.
I mean, I would say I pride myself on just the fact that I'm very open. I'm not like some bossy ego person, because we've all been through our trials and tribulations. But what I did realize and understand was the importance and value of the show, the importance and value of connecting with with different generations and different people, and it was just through the different genres of music. So when I'm sitting with you and I've watched, and the thing about me is I do my own research.
Yes,
I
he
see all the
does.
things that you're doing, and and I'm not saying that I'm the one that's
No,
done.
I'm
No,
giving
no,
you
no.
that credit. I am, like, you
All right, now, keep going,
definitely
keep going.
inspired
Yeah,
me.
yeah. All
We
right, stop.
talked
Don't
about-
stop.
Aliston, I have to say, like, when we thought about making our Crib Uncut, we thought about, like, remember when Much Music used to have all those shows, and like we'd run home, and then I felt like Much Music inspired BET, because Much Music had those shows even before we saw like 106 in Park and all those things. And now nothing is like that anymore when it comes in the music and entertainment industry. And so for a lot of us, you were like that person that taught us that being a VJ was a job, and that you could not only be an on-screen talent, but you could produce your own shows. Like, you really promoted that aspect of it and showed us the behind the scenes, and even bringing in Roxy. I think that one-man show type of idea, like, that became something that became prevalent in our community. And so I know I'm gassing you up, but you deserve the gas, my guy. Like, honestly, you deserve the gas, because you were doing it at a time where I can't imagine how difficult the landscape was for a Black man to try to make it in the forefront. And you're not the hip hop guy, you're not the reggae guy, but you're bringing all of those people in.
Yeah.
Like, how are you that guy? And, being so respected in the streets, like you said, you can go to Eglinton, but you could also sit in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you were really a great example to our community of what you could be, and that you could be all things. Like, you don't have to lose your culture. Like, you can bring that with you. So yeah, I would love to take this moment to say thank you and give you your flowers. You very much deserve them.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Honestly.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think, you mentioned that, having Roxy on there, and then eventually my good friend DC, Dave Campbell, became like the very first kind of DJ on a national platform, and then he was very pivotal in terms of getting the music out as well, especially for the DJ culture, But I think what it's enabled me to do now is, as you said, it's important is to have those conversations, and to have the ability to shut down that barrier of we're here, we're there, and a lot of things happened. Obviously, after the fact of of George Floyd, and there was a different mindset for a lot of people. They were like, okay, let's embrace them. Let's bring it in. Okay, let's have conversations, and let's open it up, and we want to hear you, and and I remember being at a job and people just felt very uncomfortable. I'm like, what? So you weren't uncomfortable the last 50 years? I mean, so now all of a sudden you're uncomfortable,
Right.
And sometimes it's just a matter of making not even them, but just making people feel comfortable and understanding where we're coming from, and that it's okay to say, hey, this Black space is for Black people.
Right.
We're speaking to our community, because our community still has that need for voices. I mean, yes, we can go on social media, but sometimes there's still a generation that might have cable, I don't know.
Anybody have cable out there?
I knew nobody in here had cable. I knew that. And that's the thing. So the platform has changed in terms of wherever you're getting your insights, wherever you're getting your your stories from. And but it's also the challenge now is to be here doing your show and getting the eyes and getting the ears and getting people to connect and to lock into something that that you feel is worthy of them actually checking out, because there's just so much. And
for you now, because you're still hitting stages, like you're booked and busy, I would say.
Right.
And what kind of opportunities are you getting now, and what kind of things are you working on now? Like what kind of projects have all of your lived experience? Like what does Master T's life look like now?
Well, I mean, my wife and I, we've always worked together, and I think that's one thing a lot of people didn't realize. Yes, she was the voice of Roxy, but we've always done productions together. We've done documentaries together. We did Sean Paul's back in the day when there was DVDs. We did his full DVD, Dutchology. We went to Jamaica and we shot his concert on Ontario Place, and we packaged it all. And sometimes I even have to I wouldn't say pinch myself, but sometimes I have to go, man, we did that. And so we've always had that level of production, and now we're actually working on a new show with our youngest son.
Family affair.
Yeah. So we're doing a show with him. And the thing was, my wife's been on him for years. So you used to do this, and he goes, "Nah, I don't want to do this." And now he's at TMU taking creative services, creative. What name again? Creative industries.
Okay.
He's taking creative industries. He's in his third year doing that. But he had to be ready. He's the one that came back and goes, "Oh, I want to do this." And so we're kind of working on a show with him. But I think one thing that I like to pride myself on is having the ability to share my journey, and to share the fact that the journey really isn't much different than what a lot of other people are dealing with this day and age of 2024. It's really not a lot different, because those doors are still closed, and they'll have 1, 2, 3 here, and our community a lot of times we're just kind of left on the side. And so those are things that I that interest me, and also working with different areas and different productions. So I'm actually working on a Black History Month event in Calgary for the National Music Center. It's my second time, my third time actually going there. I did their hip hop 50th, and now I'm doing a Black History Month event with called Pass the Mic, with Salome Bay, Wakefield Brewster, and Nanso Amadi. We're doing an event out there.
Amazing.
And it's good because somewhere like Calgary, it's great for them to see representation from elsewhere. So yeah.
And so that is fantastic that now you've been able to bring your family into this, and also I hope inspire even people within our community that they can do things like that with their families as well. Right. And I'd love to know, we're getting to the end. I want to open it up to the audience and let them ask some questions too. But I would like to know if you have any, or maybe even if you think about yourself back then or a kid like you, is there any gems or advice that you would give to someone who's just thinking about making their way out into the limelight or entering the media industry? Because here at our Crib Uncut, we realize that we just want to create more safe spaces for people to feel like they can be themselves, express themselves, share their stories. And we really want to diversify the media, decolonize the media, is another, I guess, personal goal of mine. And just see other people's lives be lived out on screen. And so I'd love to know from you, living in this time and seeing the infrastructure, still seeing the closed doors, what do you say to those people at home who are wanting to be like you, or me maybe?
Yeah, well, I think what it is you're making your strides, you're making that, you're making those moves. But there's a lot, now back in the day, I don't know, maybe even 5 years ago, you wouldn't see, social media manager, social media director, social media, all these are full-time gigs. These are real legitimate jobs. And sometimes when I read the actual breakdown of duties, I'm like, what? TikTok, obviously Instagram, do this, do that, and then do this and this and that and this and this and that.
And you see how long it takes to make a reel, because you're very good at making reels, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
you think so?
You're so quick with
it.
it.
It takes me forever. Trust me. I'll do it. Well, we just did the reel for yours.
Yes.
And I was honestly, I was doing the, this is a bragging moment, but I was doing the Tuesday. I was very fortunate and blessed to interview Sharon Marley. So that was a beautiful event. So the next day, I'm mentally, break down, just tired. And my son was, he'll usually shoot it. I'm not kidding. I must have had to shoot this thing about 50 times, and I'm just going, and uncut, and our crib, and crib summit,
cut,
and
unsight,
and then he's just busting laughing. He goes, "Come on!" And he had to go to work. He's like, "You got 5 more minutes." Oh no, not even more pressure. So yeah, and that's the other thing about these whole things now, right? You can make them seem like I just rolled out. I rolled out of bed.
How many cuts did you didn't have cuts like back then? It was like, this is the interview. There's no edits.
The beauty of what Much Music was if we were on the air, we were live.
Right.
We were live, and so you just go with whatever's going on, right? And so there was moments there that were, could be something happened. You just went with it. I think now, you see, the one thing I look at is, for me as an interviewer, and for a lot of people that want to get in front of a camera, you kind of have to get that ability and understanding of yourself. Sounds easier, easier said than done. But there's a point where, you got to kind of check in with who you are and what you want to present. And so for me, it took me a minute, because when I first went on the air in 1990, I was like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Come here, hey." And then people from the community were like, "What's wrong with that boy, man?" I was just so hyped. I was just and I've got all these clothes on, and what's going on? And then people were just like, and it took me a few years to realize, that same person who was hyped had to kind of make a shift. And realized that, once I became a regular VJ, and that was the other thing, I got to interview the white artists.
Yeah.
And so I had to have to bring it down. And so when you can't be just losing your mind, and jumping up and down. And so when you're sitting down with the Madonna or who anybody is, you just kind of have to bring it to another place. Yeah. And one thing I learned too was that I don't care who they are, who we all are. We all do, whether it's a Madonna, Janet Jackson, we all have to go to our washroom. We all have to brush our teeth. We all have to do the things that everybody else does. And so that's the thing. When I would sit down with them, it's like the only difference we have is maybe your bank account. And so for me, I'm on the same par. I'm on the same level with you. Somebody's gonna sadly pass in your life. Just the same thing as someone's gonna pass in my life. Someone's gonna be born. Someone, you're gonna have to counsel or be with, a cousin or niece or a nephew to help them get through a challenging time in their lives. Yeah. So at this time, with the amount of digital content providers that are out there, understand why you're out there. Give yourself a platform where why you're out there, because even if you're looking at podcasts, there's like over 2 million podcasts. 2 million podcasts just on Apple. 2 million. And so how do you fit in there? Like what's your message? What's your story? And so that to me is still very important. And like I said, I look at someone like you who's you have so many different, because after a while, at one point I was like, okay, I got invited and I met you in Kitchener, I met you and your sister in Kitchener.
I know. What else?
And I was like, hold on a second.
How many hours are there in the day? And how?
Elle de Lyon, no, she's Elle de Lyon. Oh,
she's still awake. Okay.
She's just, so you're doing, you're doing all these different things, and it's a matter of you're doing a lot of different things, right? And there's a point too when you can do too much. Yeah. And there's a point where
we talked about that before.
I did. Yes, I have to scold you. I have to let you know.
You schooled me.
I have to give you a little school, because there's a point where how much can you really do, and how much can you give of your heart, to 50 things, as opposed to, let me just lock it down and go, hey, here's 3 things I can check in with, and I know I can put my energy into that. So that's one thing I really have learned, because there's a point where Much Music, there's a point where I was just going and going and going until it stopped in 2001. And my wife told me, she goes, prepare for this. And I'm like, no. And I just flew to LA, and I came back, and I flew to Australia. And that's what my life was like. I'd be on a plane on a Tuesday, and then I come back home on a Wednesday, Thursday, and I fly out somewhere else. And there's a point where when it stopped in 2001, I call it mental breakdown, call it depressed. That's exactly what happened. And I was like, I remember my brother coming to my house, and we just bought a new house. And I just left in 2001, and I just turned 40 2001, so that was enough. And I remember I lost my keys. I'm like, this is not supposed to happen. It's my keys. So I lost my keys. I remember my brother came to my house, and he's like, you should put in some glass. They have these new glass bricks you can put in there to let some light into the house. And I'm like, well, why? The place looked bright. He goes, because the place was dark. And I didn't realize I'd get up in the day and I'd be just sitting in darkness. Because I had to kind of realign myself and find Tony again.
Yeah.
And that's really, and that took a hot minute, to come back to understand that, if I go to the washroom and I go, take a pee. Hey, Master T, how are you, man? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, And, hey, no, you wash your hands? No. And I had to, I had to understand, who I am. So there's a point when it can't consume you if you let it consume you. And so there's also a point where you have to understand what you need to do for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. That I honestly again take in that advice as I pare down, the amount of tasks, because you're right. You only have so much to give, and how much can your heart take? And if you're not here, then how can you even give? So always remembering to have that balance, especially for self and checking in with yourself. I love that. And I hope people out there are also taking that in. You matter just as much as the community that we are a part of. So thank you. I do appreciate that again from a master. Actually, I do have one question, and then audience, if you have any questions, please raise your hands and Alliston will come around with our mic and you can ask your questions. But I do have a question for you. How did Master T come into being? How did that name?
I mean, it's not even a really great,
it's not a great story. No.
I mean, I wish it was, but so I already did something like this promo at Much Music, and then they were saying the graphics department back then, we used to have what's called a character generator, and it wasn't digital. Well, I guess it wasn't digital at that point, but anyway, so there's Chiron, and you did all these, you put your names in everything, and they said, well, what do you call yourself? And I was like, I don't know. And at one point, I think it was Much Master T, and they go, no, that's too long. And then they said Master T, and then that was it. that was it. And then it was funny because some people would have a real Master T. Why are you Master T? And
they'd break you down. Why did you call yourself?
Why are you calling yourself Master T? And so I had that, and then I actually interviewed Master P. That was interesting.
Yeah, that must have been fun.
That was very interesting. And Snoop Dogg was there, so Snoop was making jokes about it. But I also understood what the power of, I wouldn't say being a master, but it just kind of I guess I grew into the name and persona. I think that's what it is. But at the end of the day, when I reach somewhere, I'm still very chilled. I'm still Tony.
You're still Tony.
I'm still Tony.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm chilled.
We love it. And honestly, I must admit, you're so chill that sometimes I'm like, is this real? Could he really be this chill? I'm like, I gotta be on my A game, but you make it hard to not laugh and just feel comfortable, I'm chilling with my uncle. So I appreciate you, Uncle Tony. Can I call you that? Can I call you that?
Tony.
I'm trying to be in the family. So
all right, I'm there. Christmas, we know where we're going.
Yes. Okay, come on over. I got you on the pepper pot.
Pepper pot.
What? Nice. Someone said me too. Okay. Does anyone in the audience have a question that they would love to ask Master T? Oh, we got several. Okay, we're coming over.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Great. My name is Millionaire Mommy, and my question is, as a host, you've had the opportunity to interview a wide variety of people. Is there any interview that stood out to you as memorable or impactful? And if so, why?
Wow, great question. I mean, there's a number of interviews that have hit me up for and connected with me for various reasons. I'd have to say, interviewing someone like a Barry White was real cool. Just because he was, back in our day, he was just such an icon in terms of music. Sade, because I'm just such a huge Sade fan, and getting to meet her, I was just that was the one time, if you all call it like fanboy now, and I was just I was like, hi Sade. She goes, hi, how are you? Oh, poor Sade. And then she's like, how are you? I'm like, she kissed me. It's over. I'm done. But just interviewing someone like her was amazing. Quincy Jones was cool. Dre was cool. Here in Canada, anywhere from McCarty. I had a real connection with Mary J. Blige, and obviously a lot of people remember the Tupac interview, which was a very sad. It's a bittersweet thing. It's like, yeah, you interviewed Tupac, and I'm almost immortalized that the day of his of him passing, weeks I guess a week before or whatever, I was the last person to interview him. Not a great thing that you ever really want to be kind of surround, and every year that they celebrate his passing, I get inundated with his fans and fan base, and they obviously play the interview, and but Tupac was a very powerful force. Like, you meet people and you all know, you can feel energy. His energy was, and he wasn't a big guy, but his energy was just like, just kind of knew himself, and that was definitely still impactful. It always will be. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. I'm Miss Naya, your greatest stalker.
Hey, Miss Naya, what's going on? How are you?
I'm great.
Finally.
I know, right? Master T has been an integral part of just my childhood musical experiences. I was allowed to go to school and allowed to go to church. And so anything that was Black usually wasn't on television. So I was just saying to someone the other day how a lot of my Black history actually came from Black entertainment. If it wasn't actually fact-based, it gave me something to look up and learn more about. So when it came to Black music, you were pretty much the go-to.
Yeah.
Being that I could only go to school and go to church, if I was at church, I had to set the VCR to tape the tape, and I was always, you're using all the VCR tapes, and anyone went to Byway, please get me videotapes so I could record it. But I'm hoping I can ask 2 short questions. Yeah. One is actually a follow-up to, is it Mommy Millionaire? Of all of the interviews that you have done, is there anyone that you would want to re-interview? And what would you ask them?
I mean, it's interesting because any time that an artist would come through, it would be different stages of their careers. So that usually was promotional based. So it would be interviewing them when they just put a record out, a brand new album. So it was a cycle. So someone like Mary J. Blige, I'd interviewed her at least 3 or 4 times, to the point that she was very comfortable. Very comfortable with me, and I was very comfortable with her. And I remember one time I was interviewing her in New York, and we had to wait till it was after midnight, and she was going to do a video shoot, and it was 3 a.m. She was getting ready to do a video shoot, and she came down there, and she had no makeup on, and she goes, T, you're the only one I do this for. And we sat down doing this interview, and that to me was, and that's as much connection as I really ever really wanted with people, because I ain't calling nobody once I'm done the interview. I'm not interested in going to dinner with you, but in terms of having that connection, I also wanted that connection to be displayed across the TV. I wanted people to understand and feel that connection to someone like Mary J. Blige, somebody you listen to their music to, and so having that level of understanding with various artists, it was important for me, and I really kind of pushed, pushed for it even within my own self in terms of trying to, connect with different, different artists on that level. But someone who has passed that I wish I could have interviewed, obviously people like Bob Marley. I would have loved to have had a sit down with him. But in terms of like a reoccurring, sit down with somebody, Mary J. Blige would be someone, because the amount of lifespan and what she's gone through to this point now at her age, and what she's been through, I'd love to sit down with her and really just kind of get more insight in terms of how she's living now and and what she's dealing with. I've interviewed Pete Diddy, Puffy, Love, whatever he called himself this week. I've interviewed him about 4 or 5 times, and his energy every time I've interviewed him has always been guarded. He's a very guarded, very, very guarded individual. Do I want to sit down with him at this point in time? I don't necessarily know if I do. But I would probably say one more person that I'd like to sit down with is, I'd probably like to sit down with Sade again, because she's so elusive. I think it's just the fact that she has the opportunity to put something out and go away for X amount of years, and just live her life.
Classic.
and then just come back, and still doesn't do a lot of press when she's back. So I'd love to sit down with her and just say, "What's up, Shadi?" All right.
And just one more question, since
Sure.
it was a great segue that you brought up Mary J. Blige, but what advice would you have for, the mature generation who's looking to enter into content making and things like that in a young, kind of space?
Yeah, I've seen some of your stories, and you're very much you. You can't be any more you than you. I've seen outfits on. I said, "Well, outfit, I don't know if it works, but it works. It's you." But also, I remember watching that one clip you did about Much Music. That was amazing. I heard other people that were in the industry that I'd spoken to, that really enjoyed that. But what did you do after that? Did you follow it up? Did you do anything else on top of that? Because I don't think you realized or recognized or understood how good it was. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think because that's the thing about the media, is just the fact that, oh my God, I got 25 likes on it, it's garbage. But I talked to somebody who is a record exec, and I said, "Man, did you see that thing there? The thing." And Much Music shared it. I remember seeing it. Much Music shared it. So I think the thing is, you put this content together, you put it out, follow it up. It's your content. Because it's easy to kind of go, oh, well, let me just do something this day, or let me just put something else out, But what is the end goal? What is the purpose of what you're doing? Because a lot of times you don't. That's the thing about with social media, unless it's put in the comments, or unless someone's maybe giving you a call, or unless it comes from the comments, unless it comes from the likes, do you really know what it's doing? So you have to understand that you as a content provider, you have to understand what you're creating, and you have to sit there sometimes and go, okay, I've created this, all right, I'm going to hold off on this. This is a good piece right here, but that Much Music piece, you should have followed it all the way through the fact that they were doing the did you go to the film? You should have gone to the film. You should have followed up and done like a piece on this and this and that. You should have followed up on it, because once you tag people, then Much would go, oh, well, we did that. We watched this other thing, and we could follow. Oh, this person is doing. I saw this one guy. He was doing stuff, and he does a podcast. He's okay, but you also bring personality to it as well, and I think that's very important. Unique, it's sometimes when you're unique. Sometimes you kind of live in a space, by yourself, because you think, oh, it might be a little bit too this or a little bit too that, and then you kind of hold back. So don't hold back. Just keep doing it, but do it for a reason. Even write it down in terms of what you're going to put out. No worries.
Yeah,
Best.
that's pretty big. He sees what you're doing out there. Yo, that's amazing. I love that advice that you gave. It made me think of like 1,000 more questions that I could have asked you, but that just means we need to do a part 2, and we hope to be able to bring you back and pick your brain again, because you have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so thankful that you decided to come through to our crib and share your knowledge with our studio audience. We do have one more question.
Sure.
One more question. Amazing. Yes. Come through, King.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Throughout the interview, the things you were touching on, the word wasn't actually said, but you touched on a lot of the sentiment. And the word that came to me was authenticity. That's the one thing about you being so authentic throughout your career that I think really connected. Yes, black in the community. Yes, having our voices, but it was you,
Yes.
Tony, who was so authentic that when they recognized him on the street, they're able to recognize you as a person because they got to recognize you as a man. What do you give credit to maintaining that level of authenticity, even coming from a child, coming from England, which I can relate to? I was born in England
I hear the
myself.
accent. Where are you from?
Hackney, East London.
All right, cool. I'll still talk to you. Go on.
Yeah, so where do you credit that maintaining that authenticity and pushing for it, like you talked about, you made to connect with people and to really to have that be demonstrated?
It comes honestly from my foundation. I mean, there's no way, there's no way I could walk into my house and go on any way, with my wife and go on all bossy and think I'm really special because I just did this or I just did that. It's my wife and my kids. My kids humble me. I mean, I have a 20-year-old and a 26-year-old, and they'll take the mickey out of me. You know what I mean? They'll put me right down. Because even tonight I was just like my youngest son who's here. He's like a little sneakerhead. And I'm like, these little ASC things, can I wear those? Well, they're okay, but but he'll just and it's also a grounding level. When he's around me, he grounds me. He really makes me. It becomes sometimes. I was telling somebody, because actually when I was interviewing Sharon Marley, she was talking about her kids, and there's a point where as a parent you almost become the child. It's like, it's almost like, we're rolling today and he'll just say things to me. He'll just look at me like, to know that, are you okay, Pops? You good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And then you feel like, oh, good. I'm just like, feel pampered but it's that level of connection. Same thing with my mom. She's very proud. She's, that real West Indian mom who taped the majority of my shows on VHS tape. My mom, you talk about, she taped them. And not only did she tape them, she labeled them. So I go back and I go 19something, or Drew Hill, or In the Round, Mom. And sometimes I go, the other day I went back and I was like, wow, I did those things. Sometimes I'll pull a tape and just kind of pop it in. But it's that feeling that, I know I'm I'm not any different than anybody else. I deal with everything. We talk openly about mental health. I've been through my shit. I mean, we've all been through losses, we've all been through, high times. And so it's having that balance and having that understanding that, I always find it important that anyone I always tell young cats is anyone who is a positive energy or positive influence around you, absorb them, take them in. And it might not be your mom. They might not be there. It might not be your dad. It might be an uncle. It might be a mechanic. It might be, a pharmacist. You might be a sister. Whoever that person is, connect with that, latch onto them because they're there. They're there for you. They want to guide and see you through. So, and I'm lucky because I go to the community and my wife always tells me you receive love and that really is what it is. I can go to I say Sharon Marley because it was just the other day, but I go to events and people hold me and just give you a hug and that's a beautiful thing. It really. Without sounding cliche, that means something. That means something to you because not everyone, and even especially as tough as people say about our the older black generation, black men, when them guys come up and go, "Ma Sati Wagwan," I like what you do, man. I see what you do.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. Proud of you. That's, what am I going to say? That's beautiful. So that, that means a lot. So whoever surrounds you, because I can see you got a vibe, you have energy already, you're locked in already. I can see, you carry that with you, And not only that, it's important to pass it. It's important to pass it on to someone else. Don't be contained in the fact that, oh, well, you're this or that, you're not approachable. Just pass, sometimes a few little words, just continue to pass it on.
Yeah. I really love what you said about being able to receive, because sometimes as, working in the community, you just think about giving all the time, but it's so important to take that moment to receive, because it's that person actually expressing themselves, maybe even for the first time, saying that I'm your number one stalker or whatever it might be.
Right.
And the way you receive that message could change the way they continue on in the world. So being like a receiver and a giver and just like keep that cycle going.
Mm-hmm.
That's such great advice for that's how you be yourself, just give and receive love. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And any other questions, burning questions that anybody has? We want to get, KJ coming through with the questions. Come on through. This is part of our crew over here. We love it.
Hi, Master T.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I know you're blessed, love. Something that you mentioned that you didn't mention today was your experience with working with Lauryn Hill. And before you get into that, I just want to say the fact that experience happened, that changed so many people's lives, because Unplugged 2.0 happened. And I just want to know that experience, and I would love for you to share that experience today.
Well, like Lauryn, she's like up there with like a Mary J. Blige. As far as, the amount of times I've interviewed her, I've interviewed Lauryn probably about 3 or 4 times. And, it's kind of a long story. I guess the very first time I interviewed her was when, she was releasing her iconic album, Miseducation to Lauryn Hill. And so I went on a junket to fly to New Jersey. She was doing an interview there. And she was 7 months pregnant at the time. And so I'm there to interview her. My allergies in the summer were just ridiculous. So I went to I'm interviewing Lauryn Hill, and like, I'm stuffed up. But we had an amazing conversation, an amazing connection. And again, she felt comfortable around me. And a lot of it just came from the fact that, she's pregnant. There was a lot surrounding her record, her first album. There was a lot of pressure. There was all kinds of things she was dealing with. But I think with me, I gave her some pure jokes. I brought these magazines with her on the cover. I brought Source magazine, Vibe magazine, and a couple other magazines where she was the front cover because of her record. So I bring these magazines to her, and I brought them and put them on the table, and I said, Lauryn. I said, look at these pictures, look at these, and I said, Lauryn, and she goes, what? And I said, you look so damn sexy on these magazines. And she's like, she broke down laughing, and she said, I thought you were going to say I'm in control of who I am. I said, Lauryn, we already know who you're in control. But it kind of broke her down, and maybe now I wouldn't be able to get away with saying something like that. But
I was going to say, I'm like, I don't know if that would have.
Yeah, like, these days it was just like, hold on a second. But for me, it was just like, yeah, she looked great. And, but fast forwarding, I interviewed her a few more times, and I interviewed her when I was at Sumfest in Jamaica. She was there in Jamaica, and she wanted to perform on Sumfest. And she had left her label, and Sumfest didn't want her to perform because she was only performing acoustically. And Sumfest was like, no, if you're not going to do your hits, we didn't want you to perform. And she was absolutely saying adamant she's not going to perform there. And at that time, I was leaving Much Music, getting ready to leave Much Music, and I wanted her. I was in negotiations with her team to try and have her come to perform for my goodbye party, Goodbye Blocko. So the whole time I'm going back and forth with them in New York and various other places. And I'm at the hotel room. We just came back from shooting at Sumfest. It's like 6 or 7 in the morning. Much Music calls me and said, Lauren Hill wants you to call her. And I'm like, what? So I call her. And I said, I know the phone rang, and in the hotel room, we just got back, and my wife was there, and I said, honey, Lauren Hill's on the phone, and I said, okay, just keep it down, just don't wake me up. I've been busy, I've been out all night, and I said, okay, all right, honey. So Lauren's called me, and she said, I want to come and do your show. I want to perform there. They won't let me perform here at Sumfest, and I had this conversation with her for about an hour, and she was talking about the fact that she was sick of carrying all these people around her. She had, she got rid of everyone that was around her. Mm-hmm. She got rid of, the label. She said she didn't want to perform that music again. And granted, there was a lot of controversy because of who had written the music and everything else, that whole controversy there. But then, we got through that, and she came to perform at my Goodbye Blocker. We had to go pick her up at the airport, and she was pregnant again, and she was with Rohan was with her as well. And this is the whole time when Rohan had stepped out, and there was a lot of stuff there, and she was there with her 2 kids, and she's pregnant, and Rohan is kind of in the back holding the baby bags. He was like holding the diapers and everything else. He was just like, he had just been, you stay back here. And she came and performed, and this is when she came and performed acoustically, and all the songs that nobody had ever heard before. And I remember it was just, it was kind of interesting because that evening she did a sound check, and nobody knew these songs, but there was something about her voice that just carried through the Queen Street air. And I was just about to leave. I was leaving Much Music, and she was here to pay homage, and she actually said to me, she said, if anybody promotes that I'm coming, I'm not coming, and that gave me a bit of a stick it to Much Music, because Much Music was like, can we promote that she's coming? I said, nope. Oh no, we need to promote it. I said, no, you don't. I said, and sure enough, the blocker was full, but Lauren, and it's funny because people go, wow, yeah, she lost her mind. Is this? I don't know any woman that can have that many kids back to back that didn't suffer from postpartum, and I think I've always believed that she suffered from postpartum, and it's postpartum is not, if any woman has had it, it's only until sadly the white community where it's like, oh, this woman took her life, and where it's like, oh, hold on a second, but how did your parents deal with having babies? And my mom, I know she dealt with it too, right? So that was kind of like the wrapping up in a nutshell. But Lauren is another one of those interviews that I would love to sit down and talk with her again. She's very near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm. Iconic. Great questions from everyone. I want to thank our live studio audience for being here today, and we're gonna get y'all to get your meet and greet time. I have a few fun questions so that we can end on a light note, and also some things that people might not know about you. So this is called You Could Get With This or You Could Get With That. All right. So you just choose one or the other, and you can look into that camera or that camera, and we will get Master T's This or That. Okay. So this one, television or radio?
TV.
TV all the way. Okay. Rap or reggae?
Oh God, you want me to get in trouble?
Yeah, you're gonna get roasted.
I'm a big Bernie Spears fan. Wa-da-da, whoa, wa-da-da.
Jeez.
What do you mean? Bro.
Okay, live shows or recorded sessions?
Live shows, every time. Live, L-I-V-E.
Yes, I love my live shows too.
Yeah.
Okay, this
expensive
one.
now though.
This is a tough one because we'll see what do you think now? Hosting or producing?
Ooh. Combo.
Okay, it's Master T. We're gonna keep
combo.
that moving.
A little bit of mix, like that. I like to get out there, still host, and then produce it.
Yes,
Okay,
we
just
love
get over there,
it.
move over here. Yeah.
Exactly. Still
I should
inspiring.
bounce that question back to you.
Pardon?
Host
Host
or produce?
Oh.
You.
Oh, I could see. Yeah, that's a tough one. Because I like produce. I'm like you. Like I want to control.
You don't have to explain.
Combo.
You got one or the other.
Combo. I've learned when the teacher, when the master becomes the teacher, the student.
Right. You see
that thing that they
follow
say.
me. Yeah. That's good.
When the student becomes the master, then the teacher disappears. Something like that. Y'all look that up. Y'all look that up.
I think we're there.
I don't know if that's what it is.
Something like that.
Okay, so now much music memories or post much music adventures and achievements.
Ooh, wow.
Because you've done a lot on both sides.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll go with the memories. I mean, but I don't like to live in the past, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's almost a combo question. I'll go with memories because that's what connects still with people. People love the fact of the memories, and I love sharing and giving them some insight. So yeah, we'll go with much music memories.
Yes, and thank you for always being so willing to share these memories that I'm sure people have asked you about these questions 1,000 times, but you relive these conversations like it was just yesterday. We appreciate you for that. Authenticity, as my man over there said. We love that about you. Okay, so I have 2 more for you. One of them was kind of already asked, so I'm going to skip that one. I would love to know Diamond Plaque or the Bob Marley Award.
Bob Marley Award every time.
Bob Marley. Yes, and it was his birthday the other day.
Yeah,
Shout out to our guy.
Yeah.
And then finally, Toronto recognition or international? Which one means the most to you?
T-Dot.
Yes.
Toronto for sure.
The six, as they call it, or whatever they're calling it these days. Yeah. So shout out to Toronto, and we're right here at Level Up Studios. I want to thank everybody for being here. Give it up for your beautiful selves right now. We are right here in our crib with none other than Master T and Elle de Lyon, or Elle de Lyon when I hit the stage. And this has been an elevated conversation. We will see you hopefully another time. We'll see you at the summit. Y'all better come through the summit. February 22nd is our first online workshop. And that workshop is all about teaching you how to be a content creator, how to take all of these great gems that we've learned and how do we bring it into these times and stand out, because there's a lot of people doing podcasts and stuff like that, but come through to our crib uncut. We have our script to screen content creation program, and you can learn a little bit about how to stand out in this industry. All right. And it's all free. Thanks to Frontlines TO. Thank you so much for the sponsorship, and to Rise Edutainment, Afrowave, PDA Global, Madewell Productions, and of course, Level Up Studios, Level Up Media. Thank you and good night.
I gotta say my goodbye.
Yes, you say goodbye.
Hold my goodbye.
Last word.
I want to thank you for inviting me and letting me be a part of this event. I also want to pay homage to you in terms of what you're trying to do and the platform that you're trying to do, and trying to build up the community and give people a voice, and also not only giving them a voice but give them the tools that enable them to make their voice stronger. So I want to thank you for sitting down with me and preparing, because nothing worse than when people ain't researched. And so I appreciate you for being researched, and I just appreciate you in terms of what you and your team are all trying to do. So I just want to big you up and thank you very much. Blessings.
Yes, thank you, Master T. It's official, y'all. It's official. Master T just endorsed me. Okay. Really, really big up to you. Thank you so much. And I know so many people here want to get some pictures, so we'll start out a line over here, and then we'll have the people come through and do photos with Master T.
Cool.
Or you can sit down in my spot. I'll get up and you can sit down over here. All right? So, all right.
Do it.
Yes, you're most welcome.